Hey carnivores, SV fam, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Bella, the Steak and Butter Gal. Gouda here wanted to say hello, and he wanted to wish you all a Gouda day, of course. So today's video features Josie, also known as the Ex-Plant Eater on Instagram and YouTube. I had the pleasure of meeting Josie on Instagram because we connected on our ex-vegan to carnivore journeys. Josie will share the long-term side effects and issues that the vegan diet caused her and how she is healing with the carnivore diet, what she eats, what she does, what she is currently going through. We're going to deep dive into all of that. If you're watching this and currently struggling with your diet, whether it be vegan, standard American, vegetarian, pescatarian, and you need help to feel better, heal your health concerns, or lose weight, please know that I have a support group open 24/7 every single day of the year for you guys to join to get as much guidance, help, accountability, and support you need. Please go to sbgmeetup.com for more details or click the link down below in the description box. So without further ado, let me invite on my special guest, Josie, the Ex-Plant Eater. Josie, welcome. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on.
Since I am speaking to a long-term fellow ex-vegan turned carnivore, Josie, by the way, was vegan for 14 years. I would love it if you could open up the conversation with how and why you decided to go vegan.
As a kid, I was chubby and I developed some pretty bad body image issues from that. I was about 10 or 11 years old. I decided I wanted to lose weight. It essentially led to me having an eating disorder. So I went through about a 6-month period of having, I would say, anorexia. When I started to recover from that and I realized how much I was hurting myself, I found veganism through, I think I was at a concert actually, and there was a pita tent at the concert, and that was my first introduction to veganism. They were handing out pamphlets, and I think they were showing videos of what happens in slaughterhouses. So when I was exposed to all of that, and I had just come from this really horrible period in my life, so my mental health was definitely not the best. I feel like I was a perfect candidate for veganism because I found this essentially somewhat socially acceptable form of eating a really restricted diet. From that point on, I kind of brainwashed myself into believing that it was the healthiest diet and the most ethical. I went vegan, I want to say overnight, and I feel like because I had the eating disorder, it was really easy for me to make that switch. I was vegan for 14 years after that.
14 years is a very long time. I was actually vegan for a total of 6 years before I couldn't stick to it any longer. Similar to you, where it's if I make a decision, especially with something that's important to me like health, I also just do it overnight. I don't need to, think twice or doubt. What types of foods were you eating on the vegan diet?
So initially, I was definitely just replacing what I was eating with the meat and dairy with meat substitutes. At the time that I became vegan, it was probably around 2009. So there wasn't a lot of dairy substitutes yet. A lot more products came out as the years went on. It was mainly really cruddy meat substitutes that I was eating, probably Boca Burgers, Morningstar Farms. I definitely ate a lot of fruit and vegetables too, but there was also part of my diet that was processed foods and especially vegan replacements.
I actually was doing the whole foods plant-based version, and I don't know if you heard of raw till 4.
Yeah.
So raw foods up until 4 p.m. and then you eat cooked starches. So it was really quite clean, all whole foods, nothing processed. And I almost wonder, because you ate the processed foods, which does have more fat, I assume, and I basically ate 0 fat. Maybe that's why I couldn't last as long. I don't know if you had any issues with hormones. Did you have amenorrhea? Did you have changes in your cycles?
Ironically, the only time that I ever had amenorrhea was when I had the bout with the eating disorder. My period went away during that, but then it came back about maybe 6 months after I was weight restored. And then after that, my periods throughout veganism were pretty irregular, and they became more painful as time went on, especially towards the end of veganism. There were times that my period was so debilitating, I would have to stay in bed, and it was not fun. Now it's a complete 180.
So let's dive into what other issues arose throughout the vegan journey.
The biggest issue that I did have, I would not admit this to myself when I was vegan, that it was caused from veganism, but now in retrospect, I know it was. So I would say at about the 10th or 11th year of me being vegan, I started to have blood in my stool. I started to have diarrhea multiple times a day, like urgent diarrhea. I started to get like a low fever on a daily basis. For a while, I kept telling myself that like it would go away on its own and that nothing was wrong with me. And I really like I don't know if you read this when you were vegan, but from reading books like the China study, I read that. Convinced myself that veganism could cure any disease. It just kept getting worse. So eventually I had to go to the doctor and they sent me to the ER right away. And in the ER, I was initially diagnosed with diverticulitis. I was there for like 3 days. I ended up being admitted. I needed like fluids and stuff. So I was like pretty sick. That wasn't the worst time that this happened though, because I got out of the hospital and they wanted me to do like a colonoscopy and stuff. I was still somehow in that mindset of like, there's nothing wrong with me. It'll go back to normal. It'll heal. Later on that year, it got even worse. I never got the colonoscopy or anything. So again, I was setting myself up for it to get even worse. The first flare up that I had was maybe in May. And then later on that year in September, those same symptoms were coming back. I was having a lot of pain after I would eat. The blood was getting worse, the diarrhea was getting worse. So I ended up going to the doctor again. And once again, they were like, you have to go right to the ER.
Wow.
If I hadn't gone into the hospital when I did, I definitely could have died because my potassium was so low. I was in the hospital that time for about a week and I needed to get fluids and stuff. They put me on like a corticosteroid, and that was when I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. They gave me prednisone. Eventually from taking that, my colon healed enough that I was able to like function again, got back to a healthy weight.
Okay.
But I spent the following years after that, I somehow stayed vegan after that. I like convinced myself still that veganism was still okay.
Yeah.
And I kept trying to alter my diet after that to work with my autoimmune disorder.
Yeah.
So I tried eating like really low fiber, but that left me eating mainly just like refined flour and processed foods. I kept trying to find supplements that would help with inflammation. And I maybe found like one or two that would help temporarily. And then I would end up getting another flare up, but they were never as bad as the one that made me go to the hospital, but they were minor flare ups. I spent the next 4 years after that until I found the carnivore diet to find a way of eating vegan that would work with my autoimmune disorder, and I never did. What opened my eyes was when I finally decided to reintroduce animal products. These horrible health problems went away within like about a month.
Wow. Usually when your gut is that wrecked, it affects your skin, it affects your brain, mental clarity, the function up there as well. So did you see any issues with that?
Yeah, I definitely did. I was also doing my bachelor's degree at the time too, so I don't even know how I did it. I saw so much premature aging, especially after I got really sick. All of a sudden, I feel like about a year after that, I started noticing these like that my skin was drooping on my face. When I was still vegan, I was telling myself it's normal, like it must just be because I'm aging. On my Instagram, I pointed out how my neck was like almost swollen. Like underneath my jaw, the skin was drooping.
I see.
And people had pointed out that that could have been a thyroid issue. I don't know. I was never told that I did have thyroid issue or an imbalance. So I'm not sure about that. I also always did have mental fog. So it makes me wonder how I did finish my bachelor's degree or anything.
Willpower.
Yeah, exactly. I was just always fatigued. I never had energy, and my skin, especially after I did get really sick with colitis, I noticed a lot of premature aging in my face.
With your UC showing up during those vegan years, you didn't even panic that maybe this is because of what I'm eating.
I really don't know how I never put two and two together. I take responsibility for that, for believing that. But at the same time, I feel like it was all of the information I was being exposed to, like when I was in college and just in my daily life and pop culture, that made me believe that veganism was so healthy for me. So somehow I just wouldn't allow myself to believe that it could be because of veganism, because I believed that it was the healthiest, most ethical diet, almost like it was, a religion that I was believing.
Same here. When I lost my period, I literally believed that my cycle is supposed to go because that's a sign of health. I allowed the vegan community to brainwash me into thinking that because this was happening to so many fellow young ladies, they were also losing their periods. And I was like, well, this is just part of the process of being this super healthy vegan. That's really important to shine light on this if you are going through pain and struggle and actual health concerns. Instead of just being naive, do some research or go to your doctor, right? At least ask a professional and see if it's normal, if this is actually a red flag or a concern.
That was something that surprised me too about my doctors when I did have ulcerative colitis, because I remember telling them that I was vegan, and they pointed out that the fiber could have been aggravating my gut. On the other hand, they said that red meat and dairy aggravate ulcerative colitis. So they left me in a very confused state. Again, they basically told me to eat like a lot of just processed foods.
Processed foods? How is that going to help?
Yeah. Like refined, like foods that are made with refined flour and just low fiber foods.
Is that like a standard protocol for standard American doctors for UC?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for me, when I got my last final blood test, and that's when all the red flags appeared, my doctor was the reason why I finally kind of was slapped back into reality. Because she was like, you are so deficient in so many things. You either have to start supplementing heavily, and she knew I was vegan, and I told her I didn't supplement. And then she said, supplement heavily if you really want to stay vegan, or just eat some animal foods. When she said that, that was like permission for me to just even consider it. How did you find the carnivore diet, and what kind of triggered you to leave the vegan diet and just eat some animal foods?
Last year, May, I was dealing with like minor flare-ups, but they were manageable. But then we had a death in the family last May, and that made my colitis flare up again. And I, with everything, going on in the world, I did not want to have to go back into the hospital. So I was desperate, honestly. I was really desperate to get my symptoms to go back into remission. I was reading a book about like current events, and there was like a little paragraph of this book that talked about collagen and cholesterol, how bad it can be for your brain and for your tissues to not include those in your diet. It just clicked for me then. I think because I was so desperate to get something to work, I decided like right then and there when I was reading this book. And the most ironic thing was that it was just this little paragraph. Like 98% of the book was not about veganism or anything like that. That was what made the light bulb go off. And after that, I started looking up exvegan videos on YouTube. And from that, I found those epitome of malnourishment videos where it's like spliced together clips of vegans. It would show a vegan when they go vegan and then like 4 years later and the condition that they're in a few years later. And that really woke me up, made me see the mental and physical deterioration that vegans go through. And I could see it in myself finally. When I, never attributed what I was going through to my diet. And those were the most powerful things that woke me up. I found your videos. I found people like Ken Berry, Anthony Chafee, Lily Kane, and I started watching all of you guys. And as crazy as it was in the beginning when I was first exposed to the carnivore diet, it started to make so much sense in the way my health improved that it was the right thing to do.
Josie has a YouTube channel and she documents her progress and what she's healing, how she's healing. So definitely check out her YouTube channel. I will make sure to link it down below in the description. Josie's also on Instagram. She has great content there as well from her ex-vegan to carnivore journey. How long have you been carnivore now?
I would say it's been about a solid 4 months. So I stopped being vegan last May. I was still having almond milk. I was telling, like, my fiance also changed his diet too, but we did it very gradually. So good. At first we were both like, we're still not going to have dairy because dairy is still, not good for us. And then as time went on, we started realizing all of how unnatural a lot of this food was that we were eating. February of this year, we had learned enough and had seen enough progress in our own health to be like, okay, maybe there is something to the carnivore diet. Maybe we should try it. And we think it was the best thing we've done.
I remember I was messaging you on Instagram and you told me that you initially thought the carnivore diet was crazy, which is totally normal. I would have thought so too if I didn't dive into all of the research and really try to learn everything. Basically, we were just lied to about everything about nutrition. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's so sad because now it seems like such a natural way to eat to me. Now it's like I feel so comfortable with this way of eating, and I think it's so natural that I just want to tell everyone about it. And then I forget almost that people find it so crazy.
And I love that I caught you at the 4 months in. This is very rare that I get to speak with someone who's so early on into carnivore. So the initial phase, the first month, adaptation, how was it for you?
The one thing that I did have a little bit of an issue with adjusting diarrhea, but with diarrhea, it's something I'm so used to. When I had colitis, I was having diarrhea multiple times a day. When I changed my diet and all of the colitis symptoms improved drastically, I would maybe have diarrhea once like every couple of days. And now as time has been going on, I rarely even have diarrhea anymore. Like it's like TMI, sorry, but
no, it's not. I love poop talk.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So like my stools have gone back to normal. I would say like the past few weeks, which is amazing because I was at a point a year ago that I never thought this could even happen again. Maybe it's because I did things so gradually because I stopped being vegan over about a 6-month period with reintroducing foods. And then I started carnivore. So I never really even experienced that like fatigue that I've heard people talk about with adapting to being in ketosis. And I usually do jump right into things too. So I'm actually surprised at myself that I did do it so gradually. And I feel like in the end, that really helped me to be able to see how beneficial that eating this way is.
I am positive, like looking back, that the symptoms and the adaptation issues that I had to go through were because I wasn't like Josie, I eased into it. I think I was just so impatient to heal and so impatient to just get over those horrible feelings that I felt. The brain fog, which you mentioned, definitely a big issue for me too. The bloat was insane. I looked pregnant, right?
Yeah.
And I literally had to purposely buy clothes and change the way I dress to cover that. And you had skin issues. I had skin issues. I had hair loss. I don't know if you had hair loss.
Not only my skin started prematurely aging, but I definitely started losing hair. And I remember noticing that at the crown of my head, my hair looked thinner. And again, I was just so in denial. I would tell myself that it was just my hair as I was aging, like it was the way my hair was just going to look.
Yeah.
Or since I reintroduced animal products, my hair went back to normal.
You're 4 months into carnivore. What is a typical day of eating for you now?
So a lot of times in the morning, I'll have eggs and like beef usually. I add beef tallow to like everything. Normally for breakfast, I'll have like eggs and beef and maybe I do still drink coffee, so I'll put half and half in like beef tallow in my coffee, which people think is kind of weird, especially if I have a really busy morning, actually. I make sure I add it to my coffee because then I can just go a few hours and not be like super hungry. So it doesn't bother me then if I have my first meal like a little later in the day. Yeah, my first meal, if I'm off, it tends to be like eggs and beef. And then I might have like a snack. Like today I had a burger. We tend to have either pork or beef. Sometimes we add an egg or two on the side. As a vegan, I was always trying to find like superfoods and stuff. And then I remember being mind blown by the fact that like beef and butter and eggs are like literally superfoods by like the definition of superfoods. Because I can eat beef every day. I can eat eggs every day. I do have cheese. Again, I try to either do grass-fed or raw.
With the skin, what improvements have you seen so far, just 4 months in on carnivore?
I've seen a lot of premature aging reverse, in my opinion. Like my skin became a lot tighter. The color, it used to have a yellowish tint. I had no idea that could have to do with me, the fact that I was vegan. But since I stopped being vegan, the yellowish tint went away and I have a more like red undertone now to my skin. It used to be a lot more dull, like it glows now, especially for people that I know in person. They'll point it out to me. It looks so much younger than it did when I was vegan.
I see.
And like I had really bad eye bags too. That have since went away for the most part. They're not like perfect, but they've improved a lot.
And how about mental clarity now?
It's like night and day.
Yeah.
I used to have so much brain fog. When I stopped being vegan, and especially when I started carnivore, I wanted to organize everything, which I never really had before. I have so much more mental clarity, basically.
Even if it's just like a single daily task of like going to the post office. Because usually when I was vegan, just a simple task like that, I'll be like, I'll do it tomorrow. And then it's like a week too late.
Even with cleaning that I need to do and stuff I need to do around the house, I was so quick to just put things off before I changed my diet. And now with the way I eat, it's not like I'm forcing myself. Like I naturally just want to get things done. And I do it with so much more ease than I used to.
How old are you, by the way?
I'm going to be 28 in a month.
How do you figure out staying carnivore when you have a job where you can't always be at home? Do you have any tips and tricks?
I've really embraced leftovers. So when I make my dinner, if I know I have work the next day, I always make an extra steak to bring to work the next day. Or if I'm making burger patties, I'll make 2 extra patties to bring to work the next day. I've really embraced things like beef tallow, and some people I don't think would want to do this, but I'll literally put like a few tablespoons of it just in my, container with the meat that I bring for my lunch, and I eat that with the meat. And that keeps me full like throughout the day. I'm sure you had the same thing because I feel like every vegan has this, but I would not stop thinking about food when I was vegan.
On the plant-based diet, I definitely notice, and I hear this all the time, you're hungry 24/7, even after you just ate like an hour ago. But at the same time, your stomach is just bloated. So it's just so inconvenient. It's uncomfortable. It's painful. And yet you don't have the freedom to just live life because you're always obsessed with food. And I'm not surprised whenever I hear vegans tell me I actually developed an eating disorder because of this diet. You're never satiated, so of course you will start obsessing over the act of eating and food in general. So you mentioned you have some more food freedom. How are cravings? How were the withdrawals or the cravings when you started, and how are they now?
I want to say at first the carb cravings were a little bit hard to deal with, but nothing insane. I feel like because I embraced eating things like animal fats, like beef tallow and butter and ghee, because I embraced eating those things right when I decided to start doing carnivore, it really helped with the carb cravings.
Do you track? Do you count calories? Do you measure your macros?
So as a vegan, I went through periods of counting calories and counting macros, but towards the end of me being vegan, I was counting pretty meticulously. It's just such a waste of time. Like it took so much of my time. Starting carnivore, I was still in that mindset, and I was still tracking calories for the first month, I would say. And then I got really sick of it because I was getting to the point where I feel like my satiety cues were honestly back to the way they're supposed to be. I just remember realizing like how crazy it was that clearly my satiety cues are doing their job. If I could eat a little piece of butter and know like, I'm full, like I can go without eating now, like I ate enough. So I kind of realized if I don't count calories, it's not like I'm gonna go crazy and eat way too much. My body actually is telling me when to stop eating. When that happened, I realized I think I could finally let go of this aspect of my life. Nothing crazy has happened. Like I don't have this huge appetite. I don't think I've gained any weight, but I also stopped weighing myself. So
wow.
It's going really well, luckily. It was just such a waste of time when I was counting calories. So it's freed up my mind to do so much more than to worry about that.
I also counted calories every single day, made sure that I never maxed above 1600 or whatever I was doing at the time. And then when I went carnivore, I also was like, I'm so sick and tired of doing this. It's such a waste of time. And I let go of the calorie counting. And for me, my version of like the end of the world or like something bad happening when I stopped that was weight gain. And I could not fathom like if my body starts gaining weight and I'm eating so much food because I'm so hungry, like what is going to happen? But then once I really just let go, and I think you do have to let go and you do have to just face that fear and just let it happen. Otherwise, like, can you imagine a whole life of counting calories and just suffering and being hungry all the time? For carnivore, I think a lot of women, they let go, they freak out because they see changes in their body, but then they feel so good. They feel that food freedom and they're like, wait, I can do other things besides just eat or think of food. And you mentioned all of that.
These past 2 months, I've had moments where I was like, maybe I should go back to doing that. Like, what if I do gain a bunch of weight?
Mhm.
And then by the next day, I'll realize how stupid it was for me to think that way and just enforce for myself how much ease of mind I have now that I'm not doing that. And I know too, like, yeah, again, I stopped weighing myself, but I can see, like, I look exactly the same. If anything, my hormones are definitely more in balance and my body has a much more feminine shape. So I've consistently seen, like, the areas that should be smaller be smaller and the areas that should be bigger, like, you know, my hips and stuff like that.
Awesome.
So it's just a thing that I have to continually enforce in my mind that my body's doing what it needs to do, especially after recovering from veganism and from, even though I didn't have anything extreme happen with my hormones, they definitely were not anywhere near as in balance as they are now. So it was definitely scary to let go, but the ease of mind is something that I don't think I could give up to go back to having that routine of counting calories again. And seeing as none of the things that I feared have happened, it just enforces it that much more deeply for me that it's the right thing to do going forward.
Josie, thank you so much for being here with me and sharing your journey. Just 4 months in, I am already so inspired and excited for you. Again, guys, definitely check out Josie's YouTube channel and Instagram page to also follow along her journey. Josie, anything that you want to plug or announce?
If people are interested in seeing more about my journey or seeing what I eat on a daily basis, to check out my YouTube channel and my Instagram, and they're both called The Ex-Plant Eater.
Love it.
Thank you so much again for having me on. This was so much fun. So cool to talk to you.
I had so much fun too. Thank you, Josie. Hey, SB fam. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really hope you all enjoyed the conversation that I shared with Josie. I hope you found what Josie shared about her struggles and her healing journey to be helpful. Please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell notifications to not miss my future videos. And feel free to share this video with friends, family, coworkers on Facebook, on Instagram to help me spread the message of the dangers of the vegan diet, but also the powers of the carnivore diet. As always, if you are looking for more support, guidance on how to start carnivore, on how to troubleshoot, on how to get to your weight loss goals faster, come join me in my Steak and Butter Gang support group. We are open 24/7, 365 days a year, where you will get to interact with me, my team of carnivore coaches, and the entire community. Just go to sbgmeetup.com on the screen, or just click the link down below in the description box to read more about my community and directly sign up and join us. I will see you guys in the next video. SBG out.